Hi and welcome to the Booklab. I'm Björn and welcome to another episode of the Great Books List. And the topic for today is more philosophical books, books that will have you reflect on how you live your life. And it's going to be quite a broad selection of books, books for beginners, more advanced books, books that are new, and books that are ancient and thousands of years old. So let's jump right into the list. Alright, so we'll start with this book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It's A Guide to the Good Life, The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy by William B. Irvine. This book, the aim of the author in this book is to take the ancient Stoic ideas that come from ancient Rome and ancient Greece, take those ideas and turn them into something that we're going to apply in a practical way in our modern world. This is a very accessible book, and it's actually the first book on Stoicism that I ever read, and very seldom has a book done so much to my baseline happiness as this book have done. It introduced me to the Stoic philosophers, from which I've learned a lot. There's a lot of Stoic ideas that I keep very close to heart, like for instance the dichotomy of control, how you focus your energy in your everyday life, because there are things that we can't control, like the weather, other people's opinions about us, wars going on far away from us. There's a lot of things in life that you can't control, and usually we spend a lot of time on those things, but the Stoic says focus on what's in your control. They also have the idea of voluntary discomfort, to put yourself voluntarily in situations of discomfort. It can be big things, it can be small things. That way we can appreciate what we have. A Stoic might sleep on the floor, eat simple and plain food every day, turn down offers for a glass of wine. It could be anything actually, and that way you not only can prepare for harsh times and adversity that will come, but also appreciate the joys of life, like drinking a glass of water or take a sip of coffee. A third idea from this book that I find very interesting is the idea of negative visualization. My wife, for instance, she thinks this is very macabre. The idea is that you visualize the worst thing that could actually happen, and by doing this, like imagining your child, that's who you hear in the background here. She's homesick and I was gonna pop in for a video so you will hear her play a little bit, but imagining her being this is very sad, but imagining her being sick and die, imagining your house being burned to the ground, as vividly as possible. And the idea is quite similar there. It's to prepare yourself for adversity that think might go astray, so that you're emotionally prepared when shit hits the fan. But this practice will also appreciate when your daughter comes running to you when you get home from work and gives you a hug, because you will know she is not immortal. This book is for you if you're looking for a philosophy of life, if you want to learn about Stoic philosophy, and if you want practical tips on how to improve your psychological well-being. Stoicism taught me a lot of good things, and I really recommend this book. And then we have, this is a hard one to explain, but it's the Bhagavad Gita. This is an old Sanskrit spiritual text that has impacted the world a lot. For instance, if you watched the Oppenheimer movie that premiered last year, this book impacted his life a lot, and his life philosophy, and it's also impacted mine. This is one of those books that are like an onion. It's every time you read it, you feel like you peel another layer of it, and you just learn more and more. In short, this book holds a lot of timeless wisdom, and through generations this has been the instructions for how to live a good life. Another person who was really inspired by this book was Gandhi, for instance. He put pages from the Bhagavad Gita in the shower and tried to learn it by heart. Ja, hej då. Nej, det behöver inte göra. The book starts off at a battlefield where Arjuna is getting ready for war, and his friend reveals himself to be Krishna. And throughout the book we get a lot of wisdom from the yogic tradition and different ways to live the good life. One of the key parts that stood out last time I read this book was the passage that talked about, well, let's see if I can find the quote. To work we have the right, but not to the fruits thereof. The Gita also describes the three paths of yoga, karma yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. So who should read this book? Well, if you're interested in exploring Eastern thought, then this is a must read because it's impacted so much of it. It's also a book if you want to rekindle your spiritual life, or if you just want to familiarize with one of the most quoted books of all time. Next up we have The Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. This is his account of his experience in the Gulag work camps in Soviet Russia. It's a great book for anyone who wants to understand the atrocities of the 20th century, if you want to learn about the inner workings of Soviet Russia, and also if you want to understand the threats of totalitarian ideologies. This is a thick book. I think this might be the abridged version even, and it's still really thick. I was spellbound by this book. I listened to it on audio. Just the insane stories, because at least here in Sweden we learn a lot about what happened in Nazi Germany, but not so much about what happened in the Soviet Union. And there's a lot of questions you have to ask yourself after you read a book such as this one. I truly recommend it. And let's see what we have next. Well, let's go back in time again. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote a book with his ideas on philosophy, and it's called Meditations. Rumor has it that this was never meant to be published at all, that this was just his private diary. Hej Hanna! Hallå, kom!
Jag flyger där
Ja. Färdig så snabbt som möjligt. Om du går dit bort en liten stund till så snabbar jag mig jättemycket, okej? That was my daughter. Where was I? And if that's the case, that's just amazing, because this is one of the most well written, I almost dropped it, books ever. I guess it's the most prominent Stoic philosophy book, and it's a must read for anyone interested in that. If you're looking for a path towards tranquility, a philosophy of life that has stood the test of time and is applicable even today in our society of uncertainty, then Stoicism is something that you need to study. And if you want to study the originals, Marcus Aurelius might not be the easiest book to read. I find Seneca more accessible, but you definitely want to read this one. It's one of the books that have shaped the world. So here is a favorite one that I talked a lot about on the channel. It's by Bronnie Ware. It's the top 5 regrets of the dying, a life transformed by dearly departing. Bronnie Ware, she works as a caretaker for the dying for a long time, and in this work she met with people on the brink of death, and she started to see a pattern with the regrets that these people presented. The most common regret of all is not living a life that is true to yourself. For instance, and you get all these stories from these people that on their dying bed talk about their regrets, and it gives you some insights in how you can avoid those traps yourself. And for me, this book was a wake-up call, because I was doing some of the stuff or denying myself some of the things that people in this book presented as regrets. So it's just a good wake-up call and a reality check for, are you really living the most powerful life that you can? I really recommend this book. I also listened to it on audio. That's a common theme for me. And I have two really short ones to end with. And here we have Notes from Underground by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This book was fantastic. I downloaded it on audio when I drove from where I live here in Stockholm to my hometown. It's a 5-hour drive or something, and I started this book and listened to it from start to finish, and it was just captivating. And once it ended, I started listening to it again. Fyodor Dostoevsky is one of the biggest authors ever, right? And sometimes there is a threshold with Russian authors. Their books are usually so thick that I find that I'm a little bit averse to them. But this is not thick. This is a small novella, and it's about the underground man, this nihilistic this disgusting character. The book is in two parts. The first part is this underground depressed person talking about his life views, and the second part is contains a few scenes from his life where he acts out his philosophy. This book is phenomenal because it gives us some great insights to the human psyche. His psychological insights are just crazy good, and sometimes, just like with a book like this, fiction is more real than reality itself. I think what's got me with this book is that even if this is a very spiteful person this is about, he is a person you don't want to hang around with. The reason why this book resonates is because every one of us have some of that in ourselves and can recognize ourselves in this character on some days, in some situations, and that's what makes it really powerful. I'm gonna wrap up with another short book, and it's called On the Shortness of Life by Seneca. This is an essay on the duration of life. Is life too short to do anything meaningful with it, or is it just long enough? Seneca argues that life is just long enough if you know how to use it, and this book talks about how to live your life well and use your time well, and also the common ways that people waste their lives. And I think the reason this one is so impactful is because it's written 2000 years ago and it's as relevant today as it was back then. I can assure you that. It's a short book, probably the most accessible way to get to read the ancient Stoics in their original text. It reads like it's written just a few years ago, so it's a really fun read, and it's a thought-provoking read, and it's a must read. And with that, I'm ending this list. I'll be back with some other themes on this list on technology, spirituality. I hope you enjoy the videos, and let me know if there are any specific topics that you want me to do videos like this about. Oh my god, they're so noisy everywhere. And next week I'll be on vacation in Greece, so you might see me in a more sunny environment if I pop in and do a video, which I most likely will. Until then, Björn out. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.